The year was 63 BC. Rome, mistress of the Mediterranean, seemed invincible, but inside it was rotting. The civil wars had left deep scars. Social inequality had reached unprecedented levels. On one side, an increasingly wealthy aristocratic elite. On the other, an impoverished urban mass dependent on subsidies and public charity. The latifundia, worked by slaves, destroyed the small Roman farmer. The plebeians migrated to the capital, surviving on free bread and public entertainment. Meanwhile, senators and governors grew rich from taxes and provincial plunder. It was a republic that spoke of liberty but was sustained by corruption. And in this cauldron of frustration and ambition arose Lucius Sergius Catiline, a man ready to set Rome ablaze to start anew. Catiline came from a noble but decayed family. He belonged to the old patrician elite but had no fortune. Proud, violent, charismatic, the kind of man the people followed and the nobles feared. He had served in Sulla's wars and, like many veterans, bore the marks of an age in which power came from the sword. Catiline aspired to the consulship, the highest office of the Republic. He had already failed in the elections of 65 and 64 BC. But he was not merely a frustrated politician. He was also the spokesman for a generation ruined by debt, disillusioned with the system, and ready for violence. He promised what everyone longed to hear: the cancellation of debts, redistribution of land, and an end to the privileges of the senatorial aristocracy. A dangerous speech because it mixed social justice with revenge. His direct opponent was Marcus Tullius Cicero, the homo novus, without noble blood but gifted with a rare talent, the word. Orator, jurist, and politician, Cicero believed that to save Rome was to save its institutions. Between the idealist and the incendiary, the Republic would witness one of the most intense duels in its history. In 64 BC, the elections for the next year's consulship were fiercely contested. Catiline ran as the candidate of the indebted, Cicero as the defender of order. In the end, Cicero won. Catiline, defeated, refused to yield. According to the sources, especially Sallust, the historian who most closely detailed the event, he began secretly gathering men willing to conspire. Among his allies were ambitious senators, landless war veterans, desperate debtors, and young aristocrats ruined by luxury. It was an alliance of the desperate, united not by ideology but by resentment. In public, Catiline feigned serenity. In private, he plotted a coup. While Cicero presided over the Senate, the conspirator recruited accomplices and spread promises of office, money, and power. The plan included assassinating Cicero, setting Rome on fire, and seizing control of the government. But there was something subtler: Catiline's charisma. He did not see himself as a criminal, but as a restorer of justice that the Senate had betrayed. To many, he was the heir to the cause of the Gracchi, social reformers slain for attempting to redistribute wealth a century earlier. Among the names linked to the conspiracy were Gaius Julius Caesar and Marcus Licinius Crassus, two of the most powerful men of the age. Both denied direct involvement, but suspicions linger. Crassus, rich and pragmatic, sympathized with any cause that weakened the Senate. Caesar, an ambitious rising politician, sought to build his own popular base and may have seen in Catiline a useful tool. The political atmosphere was explosive. No one trusted anyone, and the city, divided between rich and poor, seemed on the brink of collapse. By late October of 63 BC, rumor became certainty. Cicero, already aware of the conspiracy through informants, denounced Catiline before the Senate. The session took place in the temple of Jupiter Stator, where the orator delivered words that would echo through the centuries. Cicero described Catiline as the internal enemy of the Republic, a traitor who plotted to burn temples and murder senators. Catiline, present, tried to respond but was shouted down and forced to leave the city. Head held high, he left Rome that same night. He declared he was not fleeing but seeking justice with arms. Meanwhile, Cicero was hailed as the savior of the fatherland. But the drama was far from over. Catiline went to Etruria, where he gathered about 10,000 men, mostly indebted veterans and rebellious peasants. He declared himself an enemy of the Senate and sent envoys to various cities to stir uprisings. In Rome, Cicero maintained constant vigilance. He discovered that part of the conspiracy was still active in the capital, with a group of accomplices preparing coordinated attacks. With the Senate's support, he enacted the Senatus Consultum Ultimum, the final decree of the Senate, granting the consul near-dictatorial powers in defense of the Republic. They were days of paranoia. Arrests, interrogations, betrayals. The city lived on the edge of panic. One of the tensest moments occurred when Cicero intercepted letters sent by conspirators to the Gallic envoys of the Allobroges, requesting foreign military aid. These letters became the final proof. the leaders of the conspiracy in Rome were arrested. On December 5, 63 BC, the Senate met to decide the fate of the captured conspirators. The debate was historic. Caesar, then praetor-elect, argued against the death penalty. He said that, though guilty, the men should be imprisoned in Italian cities, for killing Roman citizens without trial would stain the Republic. In the end, the Senate yielded to fear. Under Cicero's command, the prisoners were executed by strangulation in the dungeons of the Tullianum prison. It was Cicero's victory, but also the beginning of his moral downfall. Some called him a hero, others, a tyrant. Meanwhile, Catiline advanced with his troops in northern Italy. He knew time was against him. In early 62 BC, he was surrounded near Pistoria by the forces of Consul Antonius Hybrida. In the final battle, Catiline fought in the front line, refusing to flee. When he fell, his body was found among the foremost, surrounded by those of his companions. No enemy survived near him, and no conspirator had fled. The rebel army was annihilated. With it died the last organized attempt to overthrow the republican system by force until Caesar's rise. The Catiline conspiracy marked the end of Rome's political innocence. It showed that the Senate no longer represented the people and that violence had become part of politics. The elite saw in Cicero a savior, the people a tool of the rich. Caesar, though suspect, emerged stronger, and his defense of legality earned him popularity among moderates. Crassus retained his influence, but Cicero, the hero of the moment, would soon be abandoned.